I am not a gaming YouTuber. Heck, I'm not even a YouTuber in general. Neither do I want to be, but I used to be a gaming news and theories YouTuber back when the Nintendo Switch was coming out in 2017. So all the Switch 2 talk and the hype of the Direct that'll go live about 24 hours from now is making me want to throw my own hat in the ring and give some last minute predictions for not just the upcoming Switch 2 Direct, but also just the general next 12 months of releases for the system. And by last minute, I mean stupidly last minute. Like, this thing is getting a big blow up, potentially even less than 24 hours from when this video is being uploaded. And everything I say here is probably going to be extremely irrelevant a month from now. So yeah, I'm not really an expert in forecasting these types of discussions, unless if watching too much video game news videos is considered a qualification. In which case, then maybe what I'm saying here isn't totally worthless. Given how hard to predict Nintendo has been lately though, well, my chances aren't looking so good. If you've had your head in the gaming space for even the tiniest bit in the past year and a half, you would know that everything about the Switch 2 is the most poorly kept secret in all of gaming at the moment. And this has been exasperated in the past few months with every possible leak under the summer, bar anyone actually getting their hands on the system itself or any exclusive games for it. I'm talking motherboards, clock speeds, screen displays, controller size, new buttons, even what can potentially be a new gimmick in the form of the optical sensor that could maybe be used to emulate a keyboard and mouse type of control scheme. This shit has all been leaked. Heck, even that Switch 1 Direct that was specifically stated to not mention anything Switch 2 ended up revealing quite a bit about the Switch 2 just by the nature of some of the things in the Direct, like those divisive digital game cards and even some stuff as small as Metroid Prime 4, still not having an exact release date. More on that later. Okay, so before the big Switch 2 stuff, I'm just going to quickly go over some of the stuff from the Switch 1 Direct, but don't worry, I'll be brief. Okay, so the big thing I want to say is that I've completely given up on all those leaked remasters people have been saying are totally coming to Switch 1 and claim they are totally real. I'm talking about the Zelda ports, the Kirby remaster, that Fire Emblem remake that I'm especially suspicious about, and those Metroid Prime 2 and 3 remasters that we are probably too optimistic about. This Switch 1 Direct is the last Direct before the Switch 2 blowout. They're all old games. Announcing them in the Switch 1 Direct was not going to divert attention away from the upcoming Switch 2 Direct whatsoever. If these games exist and are just sitting around like people are claiming, there's no reason why they couldn't have been shown off. The reason they weren't shown off is because they don't exist. If they did exist, this was the last chance. And now I simply think those leaks were just complete and utter bullshit. This Zelda remaster was speculated upon long before they were leaked, because every Wii U game that anyone ever cared about was coming to Switch, so those HD Zelda remasters just made sense. And they're well-liked games, so providing them to the Switch audience just sounds like a good idea. But they're also GameCube games, so why even bother specifically going to porting the HD versions when they could simply just put them on GameCube NSO? Metroid Prime 2 and 3 Remastered are even more bullshit. I really like those games, but from the looks of it, Prime 4's story is pretty much removed from the linear storyline of the original Prime trilogy. The only returning story thing from the previous games in Prime 4 is Sylux, who's relevant to Hunters, not Prime 2 or 3. But you don't see people asking for Hunters to be ported. Face the facts, you won't need to play Prime 2 and 3 to play Prime 4. And the Fire Emblem 4 remake is going to be a tough pill to swallow for some people. I think what the leakers saw was real, but I think the leakers saw wasn't actually a Fire Emblem remake. I think what they saw was Fire Emblem Engage, and they just saw the emblem version of Sigurd, who is the emblem used by the main character's mother. And they saw some brief scene of fully modelled HD Sigurd out of context in the small amount of Engage stuff they had access to, and their confirmation bias of expecting that remake got the better of them. That's not to say we won't get a Fire Emblem remake in the near future, or that it won't be Switch 1, but I think that specific leaked Fire Emblem remake isn't real, and that we'll probably just get a new Fire Emblem instead. Okay, now it's time for the totally and completely 100% accurate Switch 2 predictions. Specifically, the Direct and how I think it will go and what will be in it. There's no shot this thing will be less than 40 minutes. They need to not only show off the console and why we should care, but also show off an actually decent chunk of games and their plans for the rest of 2025. I'm convinced this Direct will be over an hour long, and if we're lucky, maybe even significantly more than an hour, like say an hour and 20 minutes. We can't use the January 2017 Switch presentation as a guide, since that was a live presentation, and there were some pauses and speaking and waiting for translators and some small jokey bits, and the Switch 2 Direct is not that. It's a digital presentation, so we really shouldn't expect any of that stuff in here. And we can't really use regular Directs either because those have a lot of small announcements to fill in the gaps. Honestly, the closest thing I can compare it to is like a substitute for an E3 Direct. I'm picturing the way it will start with what I can only describe as a commercial for the Switch 2 itself. Like just a short 2 to 3 minute trailer of people playing the Switch 2 and playing some games in the background like the OG Switch reveal. There will be a clip of some person using mouse mode for a game, the obligatory clip of FIFA or NBA port that no FIFA or NBA fan would actually bother with. You know, stuff like that. I think this would be a good thing to start out with because it immediately tells us how this thing actually works. We'll see people play games that are immediately obvious to be proper current gen. Oh, and the most important part, they'll copy from the Switch 1 trailer, only adults in this trailer. Yes, Nintendo Switch 2 is gonna prioritize families more than PS5 and Xbox do. But they don't need to do that kind of marketing in a direct that Gen X parents are more than likely not even gonna watch. They can do those family-focused Mario Kart trailers later. Right now, they don't need to do that. After that trailer, we'll see Koizumi or maybe another person introduce the Direct and the Switch 2 more formally, and then that's when the Direct really starts. The next 20 to 30 minutes will be entirely focused on what the Switch 2 hardware itself can do. I really don't expect spec talk at all like how PlayStation presentations do it. At the absolute most, it'll be like Koizumi going, "Hey, Switch 2 games look quite a bit better, don't they?" But they won't go into teraflops or whatever. And honestly, that's a good thing because I don't know jack shit about hardware specs and stuff like that. As long as it means we'll get current gen ports that are actually comparable and we can get day and date multi-platform releases with current gen, I'll be more than happy. And hey, we're only just now getting to a point where it feels like the current gen is actually starting, since PS5 is actually getting games. So even if PS5 gen ports leave a bit to be desired, it won't be that bad, since, well, there's not that many current gen exclusives yet. An OLED screen would be nice, but with everything else that the Switch 2 has, it's gonna be unreasonable to expect Switch 2 to also have an OLED screen, and have it not be a little bit too expensive. Where I live, the PS4 Pro is over $1,000. Powerful, but expensive. Nintendo is the antithesis to this when it comes to their recent consoles. They'll make a console less powerful so it ends up being both cheaper to buy as well as cheaper to make. And yes, this is likely to also be the case when it comes to the power of the Switch 2, not just the screen. Months ago, I had this tiniest bit of copium that maybe somehow the manufacturing wizards would pull through and this thing would somehow be on the level of an Xbox Series S, but even if that's possible, Nintendo wouldn't go that route anyway because it means it would be too expensive. What is likely to be the case is that it's going to be a bit better than a PS4 in handheld, and maybe a PS4 Pro when docked. There's speculation that they could put a fan or cooling or some kind of thing in the dock, which could allow the Switch 2 to jump in power a lot more significantly in docked, and this is where the idea of an Xbox Series S level Switch 2 comes from. But there hasn't really been anything super solid that points to this being a thing, so I wouldn't get my hopes up, to be honest. People are all over the place when talking about the Switch 2's power, and all I'll say is, just wait and see. Just don't believe the people who claim that it will be less powerful than a Steam Deck, or that the new Mario Kart could run on Switch 1, or that it'll be somehow more powerful than a PS5, even though it's a handheld device. Okay, now that all that spec stuff has been successfully speedran, it's time to talk about the controller. Okay, there's magnets. Cool, I guess. But what I actually think is worth talking about is whatever the hell this new C button is. I've seen the idea tossed around that this could be new for taking screenshots and the C stands for capture, but considering that the capture button is still on the new controller, I really don't think this is the case. The other two popular theories is that the C stands for community, and that pressing it will bring up a Miiverse 2.0 type of thing. This is a little more likely, but I think an entire button being dedicated to bring up a social media app just sounds weird. Every time I play Switch games with a friend who isn't super used to the Switch, the capture button or some other button always gets pressed accidentally, but the idea of a game being interrupted by someone accidentally pressing the wrong button and bringing up an entire app just sounds frustrating to no end. The other thing people bring up is that the C stands for cast and that you'll be able to stream the Switch to the dock or the TV or something. Now, I don't want to be mean, but this idea is genuinely pretty stupid. Like, why would they do this? What would this even be used for? DS and 3DS and Wii U games are the only thing that comes to mind. But is that really worth dedicating an entire button for? Also, have you actually tried casting before? That shit barely can be considered a functioning technology. Households with more than one Switch 2s trying to cast just sounds like a nightmare. Respectfully, this is one of the dumbest Switch 2 ideas I've seen float around that people actually think is going to be real. What I think is way more likely is that this button actually coincides with the new microphone that they added to the controller, and that this button will be used for voice chat. Like, it brings up some sort of side menu where you can add people on your friends list to call you. You can do it on the console with the simple press of a button, because let's be real, ain't nobody using that stupid smartphone app. Nintendo will finally enter the Xbox 360 era. The only thing left to show you during the hardware part of the presentation would be talking a little bit more about backwards compatibility and the Switch 2 upgrades for Switch 1 games. That is pretty much basically confirmed already. And of course, a brief overview on mouse mode and show it for some quirky launch game developed by EPD4. You know, your glorified tech demo games like your 1-2 Switches, your Nintendo Lands, your Wii Sports or whatever, I don't know. Nintendo Land might be cool since they could add more franchises to that and take advantage of how the Switches has popularized many of Nintendo's lesser known IPs. Or maybe just a Switch Sports Resort with pool with mouse functionality gameplay or something, I don't know. And that'll be a good place for the Direct to transition moving away from hardware into talking about the games. And this is where the real excitement begins and where I'll actually be hyped. First big game reveal will be another launch title, and that's Mario Kart 9. Yes, I said 9. Not 10, not Infinity or X or 14, I think? It'll be called Mario Kart 9. And that's for a very simple reason. The same reason why Switch 2 is called Switch 2. It immediately shows that it's the sequel to the last one. Mario Kart 8 is the most popular Switch game. Calling the new one something else might be a risk for consumers to think it's some spin-off. Show the game as Mario Kart 9, with a massive amount of races at 24, with huge tracks and different art style. Have it be obvious that this is clearly for Switch 2, and make it very obvious that this game is new and not Mario Kart 8 again, like myself and many others thought it was during the Switch 2 reveal season. I've been so rusty about Mario Kart since I'm one of the 5 people who didn't get 8 Deluxe, so I'm not going to give any great insight on Mario Kart 9, but one thing I want to talk about is that the idea that many people here have been thinking that Mario Kart were going down the route that I could only describe as Smash Kart. I think the idea is a little silly and might hurt the Mario Kart brand a little bit, but I don't think the idea of bringing a tiny bit more non-Mario characters or stages into Mario Kart is a bad idea. Remove the weird clashing style of slightly realistic Link and add the Echoes of Wisdom chibi version. Add Zelda and Ganon while you're at it. Maybe add some Pikmin characters like Olimar, since Nintendo seems to really love putting them in marketing. We're not going to see characters from less cartoony and more niche franchises like Metroid and Fire Emblem or whatever, but I think for franchises like this you can maybe get a track out of them. Like, imagine a track based on those stunning Xenoblade locations. Unlikely, but damn if it isn't a cool idea. Okay, next game to be shown off, and it'll be the last of the known games, it's Metroid Prime 4. Specifically, a Switch 2 version. This trailer will be the trailer to blow people away. The Prime 4 trailer we got in the Switch 1 Direct still felt restrained, and it felt kind of like it was more for Metroid fans like me who were gonna buy the game anyway, than people who still needed convincing. Of course, I love it, but this game needs to sell well, and the longest trailer so far showing puzzles and scanning isn't gonna cut it for getting new players to buy it. This game has been in development for almost 8 years, and it's a Western studio, so you already know the budget has gone completely out of control. For all we know, this might be Retro Studios' last chance if this doesn't sell well. This is without a question going to be a launch title, and this ties back to how they still didn't give us a date during the Switch 1 presentation, because they don't want to spoil the Switch 2 launch date. And it being a launch game would certainly help with sales, with it filling the quote-unquote hardcore game slot at launch, with Mario Kart and the other casual game filling the multiplayer, fun, family-friendly kind of role. But I think there's going to be more to it. I think they're going to really try with Prime 4. And one way they're going to do it is to have Prime 4 be a really good showcase of the next generation. I think that's what they've showcased Prime 4 as in this presentation. Make the Switch 2 version of this game be extra upgraded, with even better graphics. There's leaks from a while back talking about Prime 4 having some very expensive AAA cutscenes being made for it. Imagine the trailer starts, and it's an extremely high quality and cinematic cutscene from the game, that is so high quality compared to what we've come to expect from the Switch, that we briefly forget that this is a Nintendo game. This game won't just look good for Nintendo, it'll look good, and that'll hopefully get people excited. And continue the trailer with that cinematic feel, but over some exciting gameplay and brilliant music in the background like Metroid Prime is known for. Make this trailer feel special, and that's how you get people interested. And maybe Retro Studios will live to see another day and they eagerly get started on Prime 5. Oh, and might as well throw my hat in the ring and say that I think there'll be some kind of time travel in the game. After the Prime 4 blowout, it's into the unknown. And they could really go in any order they want to, and so many of the games I'm going to predict could go either way. Nintendo has such a deep well of IPs they could pull out and give us new entries of early in the Switch 2's life, so these predictions are a little looser, so to speak, so instead of an exact order, I'll just go in order of what I think I'm most confident in. So third parties are basically guaranteed to show up here. And while I do think that there will be trailers for specific big third-party games, whether they be upcoming ones or third-party ports and so on, we're not going to get a trailer for every third-party game coming to Switch 2. If we see too many, it will be repetitive and might not send the right message to certain people if we're getting, say, 40 minutes of trailer after trailer of PS4 games from 10 years ago. They're gonna want to focus on the really big heavy hitter third-party games to show off, and I think very few of the games they show should be ports of games released prior to the PS5 generation. Maybe even just Red Dead Redemption 2 and maybe throw GTA 5 in there as well. But otherwise, the trailers for third-party ports should be newer games like Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate 3 and Monster Hunter Wilds and so on like that. But other than those big games, I just delegate a bunch of other ports to sizzle reels close to the end of the direct, because again, I could be here all day listing games that'll be almost certainly ported to Switch 2. I'm talking Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, Street Fighter 6, Persona 3 Reload, Metaphor from Tazio, Infinity Nikki, Marvel Rivals, the current Call of Duty and Battlefield games, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Bleach Rebirth of Souls, Stellar Blade, Yakuza, Split Fiction, the newer Assassin's Creed, Tekken 8, The Dark Pictures Anthology, Kingdom Hearts 3, Hades 2, Cyberpunk 27. Okay, you get the point. Yeah, we don't need trailers for all of them. We can simply let them speak for themselves in a quick clip in a sizzle reel and leave it at that. The only hype those games will get is, hey, these games are on a Nintendo console now. That's cool. Maybe I'll buy some of them. But that's it. An entire trailer for a game that has been out for years isn't going to change that. So let's just keep it simple with a sizzle reel and only have trailers for those big third-party Game of the Year nominated games. I also think that going forward with Nintendo Directs, we might be seeing more big third parties actually announce new games and show off new trailers for them more so than what we got with Switch, such as Dragon Quest XII, Oblivion Remake, Doom, or even Persona 6. Though, who'll be kidding, it's probably going to be a Persona 4 remake, which we really don't need, but hey, it'll almost certainly happen. So this next game is one that's not confirmed, but come on, if this series doesn't come launching, then Nintendo really is impossible to predict. And that's 3D Mario. It's been 8 years since the 3D Mario team have released anything. It's an inevitability at this point. It doesn't take a genius or any leaks to predict that we're going to get a new 3D Mario game that's like a combination of Odyssey and Bowser's Fury, where the worlds are massive and all connected like it's one massive, even bigger open world. And have it released in October to not cannibalize the typical November Pokemon release. And I could leave it just at that, but let's get a little bit more specific. What do I actually think this game is going to be like? I want to talk about the inevitability that this will be the first actual fully open world Mario game, and how this game is going to be one giant world to run around in, and some people have even likened it to a Mario Breath of the Wild. One big open world sounds fun, and it's the natural evolution of what we got in Mario Odyssey, since the game had very big worlds and also did the whole Banjo-Kazooie thing where you could freely collect stuff without the risk of being teleported out of the world. So one big internet-connected world could be fun, but only if they do it right. If you just placed Mario in Hyrule but replaced all the Zelda stuff with Mario stuff, I struggle to visualize if that would even be a fun game, especially if it's just generic Mario biomes. I think the proper way to do an open world Mario game is to not make it a kingdom, but rather one big self-contained world and have it have a theme that can really be explored well. There's a mod for Super Mario Sunshine called Super Mario Sunshine Eclipse that is basically just that. It lets you keep exploring the world after collecting stuff, it connects a bunch of worlds together with little paths between them, it adds a bunch of new worlds, it basically lets you explore the whole island. It really explores what you can do with the theming of a tropical island. Imagine if there was an official game like this that wasn't bound to an original game to be faithful to. They could go in all sorts of directions. And surely it can't just be an open world. There's got to be something else to the game aside from that. 3D Mario games always do the gimmicks of the console more than a lot of other games, like how Mario Odyssey used the HD rumble, motion controls, and even the goddamn capture button as gameplay mechanics in certain parts of the game. And that's not even mentioning the whole hat throwing mechanic and how you could possess enemies in that game and whatnot. If I tried to speculate on every possible gimmick this game could have, we'd be here all day. So I'm going to focus on one possible direction this game could go in. And this is an idea I've come up with years ago, back when a rumor of a certain different 3D platform was spreading around. And more people have been coming up with this idea as well, so if this somehow comes true, then I'm just going to say, it was my idea first. And if you say otherwise, you can suck an egg. And of course, this idea is that the game will go hand in hand with the recent Donkey Kong marketing, and that the second game being developed by the Odyssey team isn't actually a second game, but rather, this Donkey Kong game is also the Mario game. The conceptual idea of a new attempt at a Donkey Kong game in 3D is very interesting, and there was this supposed Activision-made Donkey Kong game in development that was cancelled, but Miyamoto really liked it and didn't want those ideas to go to waste. So So what if the new 3D Mario game also doubles as a Donkey Kong game, and there's some kind of character switching mechanic? Maybe even actual real co-op for the first time in a 3D Mario game, with Mario running, jumping in, and whatever other crazy movement options the 3D Mario game excels at making, while Donkey Kong is swinging and grinding on vines like Tarzan. When you're playing it, it'd feel like Mario Odyssey meets Spider-Man PS4. If they did it well, the movement in this game could feel spectacular. What if the giant self-contained but interconnected world is Donkey Kong Isle, and all the subworlds are themed around the types of worlds you would see in DKC and DKCR, like jungles, forests, caves, abandoned factories, ruins, and all that jazz. Going back to fan-made Mario Sunshine Eclipse, just imagine how that game has 14 or so worlds all themed around a tropical island and are all interconnected, and apply that to a jungle wilderness theme with some classic Mario elements here and there, like the obligatory question mark blocks, just to remind people that yes, this is still a Mario game. Let's go even further with the movie inspiration and have Donkey Kong using Mario power-ups. Maybe have Mario throw barrels as a compromise, I don't know. They don't even need a creative name like Super Mario Journeys or whatever idea people are thinking about. Nintendo seemed to really be wanting to push Donkey Kong as a brand. So combining it with not just Mario, but a Mario game that is guaranteed to be one of the biggest games of the year just sounds like a good idea. Just name it Mario and Donkey Kong. And just like that, you raise the value of the whole Donkey Kong IP by 10,000%. Have this game be the one more thing at the end of the direct with a good trailer, and it's a recipe for success. Am I crazy for thinking this could actually happen? You know what else I think will actually happen? Monolith Soft's new IP. Don't get it twisted, this is confirmed to be real. And no, this isn't that one fantasy princess game that people have been thinking they're making. That was a hiring post for Tears of the Kingdom. The timeline just lines up. But there was a different hiring post for a new RPG that we know will be a new IP. And we already have a hint of what this new IP would be like. Tetsuya Takahashi, the director of the Xenoblade games, has talked about wanting to make a dark, mature game that is erotic and violent for years at this point. What if the new Monolith Soft IP is this game, and actually more mature than you'd expect from a Nintendo game? Xenoblade games aren't exactly jolly little walks through flower fields either, well, sometimes at least. But that series only shows blood maybe once or twice per game. I really want to see what that madman Takahashi can cook up with if it was allowed to go full Xenogears again. Nintendo wants Monolith Soft to flex what is possible when devs know the hardware they're developing for. Showing a Monolith Soft game in the first presentation and the actual wizardry they pull up with their games is a no-brainer. Oh, and this game has been worked for quite a while, so we could see this game coming out this year. I'd say December would be a good month for it. Something Pokemon will be here in some way. I don't know what though, that's all I have to say. Next. Something made by Sakurai. We know he's working on a new game, but we don't know if that's going to be Smash or not. Even if the game isn't Smash, there probably still will be a tiny teaser that a new Smash is being worked on, maybe 2027 or 2028. If Sakurai isn't working on Smash, then they can reveal his new game. Whatever the game is, he's been working on it for quite a bit, so it'll probably be shown here. A re-revival of Kid Icarus could be cool, but it could also revive a different classic IP. I don't know why, but I feel like if it were to do that, it'd be Murasame Castle. On that topic though, a franchise revival showing up in the direct, Sakurai made or not Sakurai made, is an enticing idea. I could just list any franchise here and there'd be at least a small handful of fans excited. I won't bore you with being the 100th guy bringing up the idea of a new F-Zero, but yeah, a franchise revival could be a great thing to see in the first year of Switch 2. Especially if it's one of the lesser thought about franchises. Imagine a current gen Eternal Darkness being revealed as one of the first party games revealed here. That would be sick. What about Mad World? It's criminal that that game is still stuck on the Wii. Kid Icarus, Punch-Out, Golden Sun are also ones I'd also be interested in seeing new games for. If Cristiano Ronaldo can come to Fatal Fury of all games, why not bring Mike Tyson back for Punch-Out? This basically sums up my thoughts on the whole what franchises do I think are coming. Just ignore the placements of Rhythm Heaven and Tomodachi Life though. We could also see some other series that isn't getting revived but still needs a new entry. This is where your Fire Emblem, Splatoon, WarioWares, Yoshi, No More Heroes, ARMS, Astral Chain, Mario spin-offs, etc. would go. Some of these reveals may be next year, some this year, who's to say? Pretty self-explanatory, really. And of course there's probably going to be another new IP, unrelated to the launch game or the Monolith Soft game or whatever. Similar to what was done with Splatoon and ARMS. If this does happen, I really hope that it won't be filling the same realm that Splatoon and ARMS did, because it didn't work out the best in ARMS' case. though admittedly it didn't sell as bad as many people say it did. And it would also just be repetitive. They don't have to make yet another cartoony online multiplayer game. Why not make a new action-adventure IP? It's so weird that right now, Zelda is the only one Nintendo is really doing of that genre. Maybe it can be a game that's Nintendo's answer to not having a Zelda game right away. Oh yeah, I might as well briefly touch on Zelda for a bit. I'm ripping the band-aid off. There's absolutely no way we are getting a teaser trailer for EPD3's next big Zelda game. That idea is preposterous. It's just too soon. But I think there will be something Zelda in the Direct. For one, I think we could see something similar to those early Wii U Directs where they just drag out Eiji Aonuma and tell the viewers, hey, the Zelda is coming, don't worry. And if we're lucky, he can show us some concept art like that teaser we got of Link in 5 before Skyward Sword was revealed. But of course, I have to mention the heavily discussed idea of an Ocarina of Time remake. A HD remake, so to speak. I guess it could be possible, but a lot of the claims for this are unsubstantiated, aside from Aonuma laughed when he was asked about it during an interview. Don't get me wrong, it would make for a great moment and every nerd like me would explode from pure hype, but I don't know, it's a bit of a pipe dream. It could make for a stellar graphical showcase game, since Ocarina of Time is such a tiny game and I wouldn't want a remake of it to be huge like Breath of the Wild. I just think a regular Ocarina of Time with some touched up camera controls and some insanely gorgeous graphics reminiscent of the official artwork brought to life would be great enough in my book. Okay, fine. I'll humour the idea. If we get an Ocarina of Time remake, it will be mid-2026 to lead up to the Zelda movie. And the next open-air Fujibayashi game, Breath of the Ocean or whatever, will come out later 2027. Maybe Silksong? To be real with you, I don't think this is very likely at all. This game will come out when it comes out. Oh, but what about Pikmin? Miyamoto basically confirmed Pikmin 5, so it must be coming somewhat soon, right? Speaking of games that won't be in the Direct, let's talk about another one, Animal Crossing. I originally thought Animal Crossing was a lock-in for the Direct, but I knew it wouldn't be launchy if it were to be shown off in the Direct. However, since the Switch 1 Direct showed Tomodachi Life, and for 2026 to boot, yeah, I don't think we're getting the new Animal Crossing anytime soon. Tomodachi Life fills a similar sort of niche, so we might not see a new Animal Crossing until 2027 at the earliest. Metroid 6 I am absolutely confident in will come out in 2026. It just makes too much sense. It's reasonable to believe that Mercury Steam are working on a Metroid game and that it would be for Switch 2. If they've been working on it as soon as Dread was launched, they'd have more than enough time to complete this new game. However, it wouldn't be 2025 because of Metroid Prime 4, since 2 Metroid games in 1 year would conflict with both games' sales. Thus, 2026 is the next logical year it would be coming, and also, for the same reason, it wouldn't be announced in this Direct. But like I said, they absolutely do not want to conflict with Prime 4 in any way, so they're going to be completely silent on Metroid 6's existence until the marketing cycle of Prime 4 is long past us, and we're actually in 2026. Then we'll be all set for Metroid 6. For Fire Emblem, I'm also a little hesitant on if Fire Emblem will make any sort of appearance at all on this Direct. I don't think we'll get a Fire Emblem game this year since I feel there's not enough room for one, but I do still think we are due for a new one. And by new one, I mean we might not even get a remake and instead the next release could literally just be the next generation of Fire Emblem. I suppose it's not impossible that on Switch 2 we'll get a remaster of Path of Radiance for instance, or a remaster of Fates that has all 3 routes on a single game as it originally should have been, and with better localization to boot. Or the Genealogy remake of course, but I don't know. Since the Switch 1 Genealogy remakes rumour seems to be dead in the water, and that Engage was originally an anniversary title celebrating previous characters, I think Intelligent Systems are just going to move on for the time being. Maybe it can be some type of hybrid between the classic style and the Three Houses style. Maybe instead of these Harry Potter houses, it's kingdoms instead, and instead of choosing 1 out of 3, it's 2 out of 4. And the 2 you pick will have unique character interactions and maybe even effects on the battlefield. Instead of 3 houses, call it 4 kings or some shit. You can tell I haven't played 3 houses yet. If there is a game in the near future, it will probably only get a teaser trailer at most though. Oh, and as for Xenoblade, yeah, this will be nowhere to be seen. Maybe they'll show off Xenoblade X Definitive Edition as an example for Switch 2 enhanced upgrades for Switch 1 games, but they just released a game. Now I think Xenoblade X Definitive Edition was actually done for a little bit and they were just waiting on the right moment to release it. So maybe the core Xenoblade team could release something late 2026 at the earliest? But even then I'm still hesitant on it being the next Xenoblade. I feel like it would either be a spin-off or maybe even a remaster of the older Xeno games perhaps? And if so, I don't even think the next one will be 2027 either, because I feel like by then, Xenoblade 2 would be due for a definitive edition. Because bro, that game is amazing, but man does it have some problems that could be patched up if they have another go at it. And including all the DLC will just be nice. But I think we can be patient and wait for the next mainline game, even if it's early 2028. And that's it for what games will and won't show up in the Direct. Only thing left to reveal for them is the launch date for the console, which I'm thinking will be June. Thunderstash Gaming has made some great points on May 15 specifically, but I'm still thinking June. So with all my predictions for the Direct, let's go over the first 12 months of the Switch 2. So for June is when the Switch 2 will be launched with Mario Kart 9, Metroid Prime 4, and a glorified tech demo game. July will have no first-party games, this will be a gap month to benefit the third parties. August will be a new entry in a series people want. September will be some other new IP, like Splatoon and ARMS were. October will be that Mario and Donkey Kong game. November will be another gap month, but it will mostly just be to let Legends ZA breathe. December will be the new Monolith Soft IP. January will be another gap month, but this will be for Tomodachi Life, and Rhythm Heaven, of course. February will be a franchise revival of some kind. March will be the Ocarina of Time remake. April will be Sakurai's new game. May will be Mario Maker 3, because why not? And June will be Kirby and the Forgotten Land 2. And for late 26, let's say some other Monolith Soft project, maybe a new Xena game, new Fire Emblem, another Switch 1 release in the form of WarioWare, Metroid 6, and a new entry in a series people want like Luigi's Mansion 4 or maybe Astral Chain 2. And what the hey, let's do 2027 as well. Xenoblade 2 Definitive Edition, the next big 3D Zelda game, new Animal Crossing, Smash 6, and somewhere in there would be Gen 10 Pokemon, I guess. But you know, looking back on all these predictions I made, man, these are way too safe and predictable. There's probably 29 other people out there who've made these exact same predictions for the Direct months ago. So I should add in some wild cards that have a 1 in a million chance of being revealed in the Direct, but I'll add to my list anyway, just to be unique. New classic Castlevania. Think that'd make it Castlevania 7? Outlast 3. Xenoblade X2. Xenogears 2. Metroid Prime 5 announcement. That's just like how Prime 4 was announced. 4K Rumble. Splatoon Island. A Captain Falcon video game where he's not racing. Silent Hill F is announced to be unbanned from Australia. Wait, never mind, that literally just got unbanned a day ago? Guess I can now legally get irreparable trauma from a video game. Looking forward to it. Twilight Princess HD. Breath of the Wild SD. PlayStation Portal added to NSO. Senran Kagura Reflections 2. Nintendogs plus cats plus, axolotls? Mario the movie, the video game. Stellar Blade 2, now featuring even more jiggle physics in places you don't want them to be. Mega Man 12. Mega Man X9. Mega Man ZX3. Mega Man Legends 3. My dad comes back with the milk. There, is that enough unique predictions? Here's the bingo card I'll be taking with me for the Direct, and mark my words, I'll get myself all 58 bingos. And if you hate my predictions, then just know that by the time this video is uploaded, I'll get proven right in 12 hours anyway. And this is what you look like. And if you're expecting more videos like this in the future from me, then don't. Don't expect anything from me ever again.